Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, welcome back to 7th week lecture of this course on strategic performance management. As you remember, in the past weeks we have been talking about performance management and the systems and processes related to performance management, right, and we discussed lot of things related to performance management in a holistic framework. Now, the basic objective of performance management is to see that how we are going to manage performance at different levels, okay, how it is aligned with the goals and objectives of the organization, right. So, strategically we look into these issues to ensure the growth and development of the individual as well as organization, and that is why we go for managing the performance of people, groups and organizations, right. Now, in this context we also see to it that how we can improve the performance of those individuals who are performing well. Okay. In fact, it is also associated with the performance management system, but in performance management system we do not take care of those individuals who could be termed as talented or having high potential, right. So, those who can perform very well given the opportunities, okay, given the developmental opportunities specifically, and see that how they can perform well and how they can take up leadership positions, and that is how we are looking into some other issues related to performance management, that how we are going to manage the performance of those who are doing really well or high performing individuals. Not only that, we also look into the fact that whether the individual has the potential to perform well in the future given the opportunities and training, right. So, what we are talking about is, as a part of this performance management process, we also try to evaluate the potential of the employees, and when I am talking about the potential of the employees, that is to see that whether the employees has the capabilities to grow and develop himself, okay, right. There could be lot of potential among the employees which is not tapped, which is not explored or exploited by the organization, and if organization is not going to tap or exploit the opportunities related to the potential of the employees, then these potentials are hidden and it cannot be used by the organization. But if organization really wants to grow and develop himself and wants to see that people develop, then they try to see the potential which is hidden, which is not at the surface, because what we know is the knowledge and skill base of the employees, which is visible, based on which we evaluate or manage the performance of the employees. But the employee may be having lot of potential which is not unearthed, right. So, the objective of this session is to see that how we could manage performance by examining the potential of the employees, and for the purpose what we do, we try to evaluate the potential of the employees, whether the employee has the potential to grow and develop, whether the employee has the potential to take up leadership positions. So, basically we try to assess the potential of the employees to ensure that he grows and develop himself well given the opportunities, right. So, with this we proceed further to discuss how we define potential. Now, when it comes to potential, so potential is something that is latent, right. Latent in the sense that is not visible, which is not at the front, which is not documented by the individual in terms of his knowledge and skill base, but he might be having certain potential, and if it is realized well, it is going to be good for the individual as well as the organization, right. So, if you look at the definition of the potential, it is something that is a ability which is latent, which is hidden from the view, right, but it is not being realized or exploited by either the individual or the organization. Now, the question is that whether the management is going to realize the hidden talent or the potential of the employees, which could be of lot of value to the individual as well as the organization, right. So, the objective is that the top management need to identify the potential or the hidden talent among the employees and see that they get the opportunity to grow and develop, right. For example, you will find that in organizations there are a lot of people who have the desire and potential to grow and develop themselves, but they are not getting the opportunities, right. They might be having the competence which is not being utilized by the organization, right, or they might be having certain talent which could be used for the benefit of the individual as well as the organizations, right. Now, the major question is that whether organization has a policy framework under this performance management system to see that how we are going to tap the hidden talent of the employees, how we are going to make use of it, whether we have a leadership and succession plan, whether it could be linked with the career development of the employees or not, right. So, the idea of identifying or examining the potential or what you call the hidden talent which is not at the surface, okay, is to realize that people have talents, we need to explore and exploit them, right. Because if you are able to explore and exploit the talent of the people, then it is good for both, provided you give them an opportunity to make use of the potential which they have. But before you allow them, you need to identify whether people are really having the potential, whether these potential could be linked with good performance or effective performance, with whether these potential are relevant for the organization or for the job or not, right. For example, people might be having a lot of potential, okay, but it could be in different fields which could not be directly linked with their job, it could not be relevant for the performance, right. So, we need to look at potential in a sense that whether this potential can be exploited by the organization for the benefit of the organization, right. And if they have the potential, whether that could be used for the work that they are doing or not. Not only work that they are doing, but also see that whether they could be advanced in their career for growth and development or not. So, identifying and examining the relevant potential is very, very important. Okay. And once you are able to realize those hidden talent or latent potential of the employees, then it could be used. And the idea here is not only to identify the hidden talent or the potential, but also see to it that how this potential can be brought to the surface, right. For example, there could be a person who could be a good singer, who could be groomed as a good singer, but he is not getting an opportunity. Okay. So, now there could be organizations who can provide them a platform, groom them, so that this potential come out and they turn into good singers, good performers also, right. So, the idea here is to see that how we are going to nurture and groom these potentials to take leadership positions in the future, right, and see that how these potentials can be used by the organization for the growth and development of the organization and also the people. Okay. So, the major question that arises here is that how we are going to evaluate the potential, because unless you are going to evaluate the potential, it is not possible, right. Now, if you look at this figure, it is very clear that there is a seed given the perfect climatic conditions, rain, other things, right. Then you find that something grows out, something comes out from the seed, right, which could be termed as that you are going to nurture a potential employee to see that how he is going to perform well, right. So, the idea of evaluating the potential of employees is basically to ensure that whether the people have the potential and whether there is a need to nurture these potentials, so that it could bring better performance to the organization or not, right. Now, why we go for potential appraisal, right? Why we need to identify the potential of employees, right? Who is having high potential, right? So, you need to identify the potential of the employees, right, and this can be done by looking into their performance, looking into their temperament characteristics, looking into what kind of personality they have, the kind of relationship they develop, whether they help people others or not. So, there could be a lot of actually tools that could be used to identify whether people have the potential or not. And in any organization, you know that when we try to promote people, try to identify successors, try to see that who could be given opportunity in the organization, it is always those people who are high performing individuals. So, these high performing individuals might be having those potentials which could be used for the benefit of the organization. So, the idea here is that you need to identify this potential, so that they could be groomed to take up higher positions in the organization, right. So, the idea is here is that you need to inform employees what are the future prospects for high performing individuals, are those having good potential, and also develop a succession plan. What I mean to say here by succession plan is that you need to develop a succession plan for the organization, that who is going to succeed whom, right, in a hierarchy. So, it is only a person who is having a very high potential and who is expected to perform well on that role is going to succeed in the hierarchy. Now, we need to identify such potentials and see that how we can manage the succession process to ensure that high performing individuals or people with high potentials are promoted in the organization. So, organizations also need to have a succession plan. They need to identify those employees who could be promoted or who could take up leadership positions in the hierarchy at a later stage, and also tell employees that what they need to do in order to grow and develop themselves. So, you need to provide them enabling conditions. You remember we talked when we were talking about performance analysis, we said there could be lot of factors which either facilitate or hinder the prospect of growth and development of the employees, right. So, we need to identify those enabling conditions which could help employees to grow and develop themselves in the career. So, these enabling conditions are giving the right kind of opportunities, training, mentoring, grooming them, coaching. So, there could be lot of interventions that could be done to see that how employees are going to develop and grow themselves in the career. But before that, you need to identify those talents who are having potential to grow and develop, because if you are not going to identify those talents which are having the potential and you try to develop them, probably the people will not be able to make it. So, the first task in the potential appraisal process is to identify highly talented individual who have the potential to grow and develop themselves, given the right kind of opportunities, and having those facilitating factors or enabling conditions which will help them to grow and develop, right. So, it could be seen like this. So, when we are talking about the potential of the employees, potential is something that is hidden, talent which is not yet explored, right. So, the idea of this appraisal is that you are going to appraise it to make it visible. Okay. So, once this potential is appraised, the hidden talent which is not yet being explored become visible, and then after this potential appraisal, you are going to create certain enabling conditions so that the visible potential is used or groomed, mentored and coached, right. So, both are important, grooming and providing enabling conditions are opportunities, so that this potential can be exploited by the organization for the benefit of both the individual as well as organization, and then the individual having high potential is also grow in career, and that is the basic objective of having a potential appraisal system in the organization, right. And that is why it is important to identify the potential of the employees, evaluate them and provide them enabling conditions with training, mentoring. So, this could be related with each other, which could help them to exploit the opportunities okay, for the benefit of the individual as well as organization both, and then that helps in the growth and development of people in the career, right. So, and that is why we are talking about potential appraisal. Okay. Now, coming to potential appraisal. So, if you look at the definition of the potential appraisal, it says that it is related to identification of hidden talents and skills of the person. That is what I have been talking about, that is the first part of potential appraisal, right. Another issue is that people may or may not be aware about their potential, right. So, you need to explore, you need to identify whether the person has the potential or not and make them aware about it, because sometimes people may be having the potential, but they do not know about it, right. So, you need to make them realize that you have this potential and you can use this potential to grow and develop, right. So, and that is very important, because since it is not visible to the individual, okay, so it is for the top management to find out and make sure that people are able to realize their hidden talents and potential and how it could be used for the benefit, right. So, even if the individual is not aware about their potential, it is the responsibility of the top management looking at the behavior and performance to identify whether the person has the potential or not. Now, there is a difference between what we call the performance appraisal and the potential appraisal, though both of them could be part of what you call the performance management system. In performance management, what we do? We try to look at the performance of the individual and see how well he is able to perform in a given job in a given period of time, right. So, that is what we call a performance appraisal system. But when we are going to identify the potential, basically it is not related to a given job or what he is doing currently and how well he is doing, right. But how well he is doing currently could be an indicator of the potential that he can perform better in the future, right. So, when we are talking about potential appraisal, the idea is to see that you are not evaluating the past performance of the individual, but you are looking at the how well the person is going to perform in the future, right, and that is why we call it a future oriented appraisal, right. So, future oriented appraisal means that you are able to identify and evaluate the potential of the employees. It is not only simply identifying the potential and see that the extent to which this potential can be used by the employees, exploited by the employees for the benefit of individual himself or the organization, right. Now, many organizations use both performance appraisal as well as potential appraisal, right, as a part of the appraisal process. So, what they do? They evaluate their past performance and they also see that how well you are going to perform in the future, right. So, but in one sense it differs from the performance appraisal, that performance appraisal is related to your past performance, where you are evaluated on what you have done in a given period of time, while potential appraisal gives you a hint that what you can do, how well you can do a given job in the future given the potential that you have, right. So, and that is why potential appraisal is very important. Now, why we need to identify potential of the employees? What is the objective, right? See, if you are going to adopt a developmental approach, what we do in performance management system? We try to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the individual, and the basic purpose of identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the individual is to ensure that you develop a plan or action plan for the growth and development of the employees, right. So, when we are looking at potential appraisal, it is also used as a tool for the development of the employees. So, your orientation or your perspective is to develop the employees. Now, in performance appraisal, the approach is different. You identify the strength and the weaknesses. So, you develop an action plan to see that how people can overcome their weaknesses and further strengthen their strength, right, in order to perform their job well, right. But that is related to your current job performance, while potential appraisal is seen as a tool to evaluate and identify your potential and then develop you accordingly to take up leadership positions. Okay. And when you are going to have a succession plan, it could be used, right. So, it could also be used as a powerful tool for employee development, right. In performance appraisal, what happens? You certain administrative decisions could be taken up on the basis of your performance. For example, if you are performing well, you get a promotion. If you are not performing well, you do not get a promotion, right. But it has been found in many studies, and there is a clear indication that even if you are performing well in a given job, okay, there is no guarantee that you are going to perform well if you are promoted to the next higher level, right. So, how do we ensure the suitability of a person in a higher role? What I mean to say that whether the person who has been promoted based on his performance, past performance, is going to perform well in a job, in a defined job, in at a higher role, right. And many times it has been seen that people who have been performing their current job very well are not able to perform job when they are promoted to the next level. So, the next level when they are given a job, they are not able to perform very well. So, this becomes a problem for the organization, right. So, they might be having all the talents, okay, and a skill to perform their job currently very well, and on the basis of that, even if you are going to promote them, there is no guarantee that they would be able to perform very well. Now, what to do with this kind of problem? So, the solution lies in potential appraisal. See whether the person who is performing well also has the potential to perform well at the higher level or not. So, you with the help of this potential appraisal or evaluation of the potential appraisal, what you can do? You can identify whether the person is going to be suitable for that particular job or not, right. So, you go for assessment of the potential of the individual. Okay. There are tools and techniques that we will discuss later, that how to assess the potential of the employees for a given job in the future in the hierarchy, right. And then also tell that how they can use make use of these potentials to grow and develop themselves. So, you also need to inform them about their future prospects, that how this potential, if exploited properly by the individual himself, will help them to succeed and grow in their career, right. And once the individual is able to realize his potential, he can make use of it given the right kind of conditions to grow and develop. Similarly, it also facilitates the organization to have a good succession plan, right. So, when we are talking about succession plan, what actually happens? The organization has a succession plan. Suppose you are working as a assistant manager in organization, right. Now, you need to be promoted to a manager or from manager to a senior manager, right. So, in this hierarchy, the job descriptions of assistant manager may be different from a manager or senior manager, right. And you have a succession plan that those who are performing well at the assistant manager could be promoted at the senior level or at the management level, right. So, what you need to do is you have identified a good succession plan, and based on that you have identified people who are performing very well. Not only those who are performing well, whether the people have the potential or not. If the people have the potential, what will happen? Your succession plan is going to be very successful, in the sense that you know that the person is performing very well and he has the potential to grow and develop. So, you promote him to the next level, right. But at the same time, you also ensure that people are groomed and developed, so that they are able to develop themselves, right. So, when we look at the need for potential appraisal, yes, it is used for employee development. Okay. You can make use of this for promoting individuals, you can use it for succession planning, you can use this to ensure that people realize their potential and try to grow and develop themselves. Organizations also facilitate this process by having a good succession plan or career development plan for the individual, so that they could be promoted to the next level, right. And that is why potential appraisal has been found as a very useful tool for career planning and succession also. Now, what are the various characteristics of the potential appraisal? Now, if you look at potential appraisal, what does it do? First, it is able to identify hidden skills and abilities in the individual, right. Now, there is no time which is fixed for identifying this, right. Whenever any kind of potential is shown by the individual, it is for the managers to observe them and find out that kind of talent, right. Since it is a future oriented process, so you are not looking into the past performance, though past performance could be an indicator of good performance, but at the same time what you need to look at it is that it is a future oriented process. So, what I have been discussing about is that identifying talents and skills, right. It could be identified any time, because if you look at performance appraisal process, what happens in performance appraisal, we have a fixed time period for evaluation, but for potential appraisal there is no time period that is available. For example, if you look at performance appraisal, it could be done annually or semi annually, something like this. But when we are talking about potential appraisal, there is no time limit, there is no time period which is fixed, that okay, you are going to appraise the potential of the individual, right. And if you look at performance management, what happens? You are evaluating past performance, but it is a future oriented process, right, though it could be termed as a part of the performance appraisal. Identifying the potential does not mean that you are going to promote it. The idea is that you identify the potential, make use of them, or help them to grow and develop yourself those potentials which could be rightly put into the job, either in the current job or to the next higher level of job, right, because that helps you to perform well in the higher level job, and that is why in the succession plan you are the person who is going to be chosen, provided you perform well and have the potential to grow and develop. Now, how we identify the potentials? What are the various indicators of potential? Okay. So, these are some of the points that could be looked into, like power of analysis, right. Whether you have a analysis and application oriented behavior or framework or not, right. When you are going to analyze certain problems, are you able to break them down, reformulate or transform a solution, okay, which could be managed well. So, this power of analysis gives you an idea that how to handle a problem, breaking down into the pieces, looking into each one of them separately, transforming that problem or situation, and see that how it could be managed very well, right. So, by analyzing the situation, looking into each and every aspect of it, and then reformulating or transforming those situations actually is an indicator that yes, you have the potential, right. Another indicator of the potential is the breadth of the vision, whether you are able to realize things in a broader framework or not, right. So, whether you are able to realize or identify a problem in the context of a broader frame of reference or not, right. For example, as HR manager, you know that there has been frequent breakdowns or say strikes that is going on by some section of employees, right. Now, the root of this problem may be somewhere else, right. So, if you try to manage the strikes of the employees by looking into the cause and then you try to manage them, probably will not be successful. But if you are looking into the context of the HR policy framework, so that could be a broader framework of reference, right. So, look into the HR policy framework, whether it is related somewhere to the HR policies of the organization. So, as a HR manager, you are going to examine this problem in this context, HR policy framework, so that you can relate this problem with the HR policy of the organization. That why people or a set of employees in certain sections are going for frequent tool down strikes or other kind of other form of protests, right. So, if you have this broader frame of reference, what will happen? You will be able to detect a specific situations or relation, how it is related with the broader framework, right. So, you can see that these tool down strikes are going frequently or protests on strikes by the individual, maybe that it is related to the HR policy of the organization. So, you could look into the broader framework of reference to solve the problem, and if you are able to realize a problem in a broader framework, probably that is also a potential which could be identified for you, right. Persuasiveness, that could be also a what you call the potential of the employees, whether you are able to sell ideas, communicate ideas to other people, and whether you see that okay, they are committed. Okay. When you find that yes, he is being influenced by the top management, right. So, the idea here is that whether you are able to pursue things or not by communicating through commitments and other things. So, if you are having a good persuasion ability, that is also required at the higher level jobs, right. So, when you are going to identify potential, you also see that whether people have this capability to persuade things or people in the right form, in the right direction or not, right. There could be some other potentials also that we will discuss later. Now, so if you look at the focus is on competencies, right. So, these are the general competencies that we look into when we are looking for a job, like whether he has the knowledge and skill to perform the job, whether he is able to think clearly about what he is doing, what he is not, right. Whether he is able to set the goals and plan activities accordingly, so that he is able to achieve the goal or not, what kind of relationship he develops, what kind of leadership capabilities have, whether really creative and innovative. So, we look into these competencies, okay, and these competencies could be related to the future jobs, right. So, the focus of the potential appraisal is the development and career planning. It is very subjective and non-quantitative approach, right, because when you are going to evaluate potential, basically we look into some of the qualities related to your say leadership ability, your innovation, your relationship quality, right, that you maintain, your problem solving ability, okay, and looking things into a broader framework. So, these are some of the qualities which are very subjective. So, it is non-quantitative approach, right, and the focus is on future, not into looking into the past performance. As I told you, in the past performance appraisal, what happens? We look into the past performance of the individual, right, and the idea of focusing on potential appraisal is that probably you are in a position or you have been thinking about that how to groom future leaders. Who are going to be the future leaders? Okay. How to identify who are the future leaders? Only on the basis of potential appraisal, you will be in a position to find out who are the future leaders who could be groomed and developed. And in order to identify, basically we try to identify using certain psychometric tests that we will take upon again. So, you try to identify using certain psychological tests, basically they are known as psychometric tests, which try to capture your logical ability, your aptitude, whether you have specific abilities or not, whether you have deductive or reasoning ability and inference, right. So, what are the things that basically we try to find out, what are the attributes we are looking forward to, right, what kind of attitude you have, whether you have attitude to and willing to learn new things or not, whether you feel that you are accountable for the job that is given to you, whether you feel committed or engage yourself with the job, okay. Do you take initiatives or not, what is your leadership capabilities, okay, and whether you follow ethical behavior and approach or not. So, some of these attributes could be evaluated using psychometric tests, which can give you an indication that yes, you are there or you are performing well. Now, look at this quadrant of performance versus potential, right. What does this show? This model suggests that if you have been performing well and you have the high potential, then you could be termed as stars, right. It means these are the people who need to be promoted, these are the future leaders, right. But even if you are performing well and you do not have the potential, you are termed as solid citizens. Solid citizens means those who are going to consistently perform well, but you do not have the potential. So, your promotability is at stake, you may not be promoted because you do not have the potential. The problem is with the first two quadrants, you may be having the potential, but you are not able to perform well. So, they are known as problem children. So, what needs to be done here is to identify the problem here and see what can be done in order to ensure that people are able to use their potential to perform well, right. And finally, neither you have the potential or not you are able to perform well. So, what are the options? Go for planned separation. It means that such people are not required by the organization, right, and it is important to see that they are not going to be part of the process. So, what are the things that we are going to evaluate when we are talking about potential appraisal? So, these are the four major criteria that could be used in terms of the conceptual effectiveness, whether they are able to visualize things, whether they understand the business orientation, whether they have entrepreneurial orientation, and whether they are able to realize the things in the proper perspective or not. Then other thing is related to interpersonal relationship, right, like their negotiation, personal influence, verbal behavior, network. Okay. Then coming to operational effectiveness, are they really looking for the results, do they take risks, are they able to control the things, and how effective they are. And finally, you have motivation, that is very important, because if you do not have a motivation to achieve high performance, then you will not be driven by this to perform well, right, and whether you really have professional ambition to grow and develop and really innovative in your behavior or not. And then stability is very important, you have been consistently performing well, right. So, when we are talking about some of the criteria of potential appraisal, it is very important to look into these factors which could be an indicator of a high potential among the employees, right. Now, this is another matrix that I want to use here, I will discuss it again later. Here I am talking about performance and leadership potential matrix, right. Can we relate performance with succession plan or leadership potential or not? Now, performance means you are able to do your job well, you have the skill and abilities very well in the whatever you are doing, right, and you maintain good relationship at the workplace, right. Then potential is that whether you have the capacity to grow and develop in a leadership role, okay. And who is a leader? One who guides, directs, influences, and so the way to others. So, after defining these terms, let us look at this. Okay. If you are having poor performance and look at the leadership potential, right. So, start with 1C, it means that they need to be developed, because though they might be having good leadership potential, but the performance is not good. Okay. If you are having poor performance, then you have to see that then you need to be assigned new roles, so that you can perform well. But if you have poor performance and no potential to develop yourself as a leader, then you are in red, right, and that is why you need to plan separation. Similarly, if you are having moderate or good performance level and high potential, then it is good, right. Similarly, if you are having good performance and moderate potential, that is accepted, right. And finally, good performance, but limited potential, it means that these people need to be groomed and developed, coached for high performance, right, and since they do not have the potential, they can continue with the current job. Coming to high potential and high performance, outstanding performance. So, 1A, that could be termed as stars, right. These are the people who could take up leadership positions, right. Those who are having outstanding performance, but moderate potential, basically they are ideally suited for the organization, because star performers may not stick to your organizations, right. But outstanding performance, but limited potential, they would continue in their current job, they could not be promoted, because they will not be consistent in their performance in the next higher level, right. So, what we have discussed, let me summarize that what is potential appraisal, what is the need of the potential appraisal, what are the characteristics that we have, and we also discuss certain indicators of the potential appraisal, okay. And then we also discuss a model of potential appraisal to ensure that what needs to be done with the potential and how it could be used by the organization for a leadership role. Thank you very much.